Welcome, Miss Chevonne, to the Youth Ministry Motion podcast.
Thanks, Paul. I'm so excited to be here.
Well, I'm excited to have you. And I said earlier, I said, you are my first, what I would call Hollywood insider here to the show. You have produced and brought to screen a lot of different films. Some I'm sure that a lot of our audience have seen, some of they have not seen. We will discuss those in the course of our interview, though, because I want to highlight some of them. I discovered some things that I didn't know, and I want to be able to share those with you. The first question I would like to ask you, though, since we are talking to youth pastors, can you tell me a little bit about, maybe, did you, as a young lady, as a teenager, did you go to youth group? Did you grow up in church?
That was one of your first questions you asked me. I was raised Catholic, and at the same time, we moved around. So I went to live in Colombia, in Bogota, Colombia, in Latin America, where nobody spoke English in my school.
Wow.
It was only girls, nuns, and sheep in the middle of nowhere. And we would come home weekends, and I remember the first year of living at this school, because I couldn't speak the Spanish, I didn't have any friends. My dad had popped us in this place to go to school, and I remember coming home weekends and just saying, "You're the worst dad. How could you do this to us? How could you make us suffer like this?" And there was an American school in the thing that I wouldn't have to be going through all this. But after the first year, I learned the language. I learned the thing. I was able to say my confession to the priest in Spanish. I learned how to do that. And it was fun being there at the school, because I became known as more of a Latin girl instead of just being the American. So it was fun, and being with the nuns. And I came back to the United States at 16 years of age and went to public school. And that was a big, big, big difference.
Yeah, no sheep.
No sheep. And at the same time, there was boys in school. There was boys, and I had been with the girls all this time, and I'm back in the United States, and they prepare you for going abroad, because they're going to say you're going to be different and so forth. What most people don't prepare you is coming home. When I'm so excited, I'm coming back home, and nobody's going to be able to tell me you're the gringo or you're the foreigner. I'm home. This is my country. And then I come back and I'm the foreigner again, because I've missed schooling and dancing and the culture for 5 years. And my culture has been Latin, and it was Latin music and the dancing, and now I'm considered a spick. And I'm looking at them going, "Did you see this face? This is not a spick face. This is an American face."
Look, I just speak the language, right? I just speak the language.
Yeah, exactly. But they didn't have a lot of people that did that at that time.
No doubt. So coming back, that brings us to a great spot here, where so you come back to America 16 years old, and I don't know what your movie, if you had any movie watching experience where you were, but coming back into America where, movies are, and I don't know what year this was or anything like that, but what movies did you love when you came back? Were you interested in movies? Did you start going to movies? And what was your favorite movie?
I mean, I would say one of my favorite movies was The Other Side of the Mountain. I don't know if you ever saw it. It's with Jill Kinmont story. She was one of the Olympics people that was going to become a star, and she was representing the United States. And she ended up having an accident and became paralyzed from the waist down. And how her boyfriend at that time that she thought she was going to be marrying ended up dumping her, because now she's not skiing anymore. And you go through this movie of being so tragically upset about it with her, and how her life is, and how she doesn't want to go on. And then this random guy ends up getting her out of her depression and starts making her feel that she can do things even though she is in the chair. And they're about to go get married, and everything's looking really well. And then he dies. I mean, it was an emotional roller coaster. I mean, I literally felt like I had to go to sleep, because I was up, I was down, I was up, I was down.
Spoiler alert for all you folks there. Yeah. He dies. So just so you know.
Yeah, I'm sorry. And Rocky. I would say Rocky. Rocky was another one of my, it was the 80s I grew up in the 70s, the early 70s. But,
sure.
Just seeing somebody that they're struggling and how they come up and they conquer things. I think those were one of my favorite movies.
So really then inspirational movies were kind of your jam. You loved
Even when I was little.
comeback stories. You loved the fight, the overcoming and all of that. And do you think that played a lot into why you're doing what you're doing now?
I mean, when I look back now, I do. I mean, God has his ways of doing things that you would never anticipate. That's for sure. I mean, even how I got into the business is just like I did not study film. I did not study film at all. I was telling I was living in Rome, Italy. I was living in Rome. I was married to an Italian. I had a beautiful apartment my father had bought for me. I had just finished my degree in international business from the American University in Rome for international business. And I had my cars paid for, and I get this telephone telegram from the United States. And I'm living in Italy, and I'm first of all, that a telephone telegram came by the phone was my first thing. I'm looking at it going, what? It's supposed to be at the door. And that they're talking to me in English was another thing. And they go, are you Chevonne O'Shaughness? And I say, yes. They go, well, we have a telegram from your father. Okay. No more monies. Because at that time, I was getting $8,000 in the 80s net a month.
Wow.
I know.
That's a
I was
good
a
gig.
little, it was a good gig. But after my life was destroyed, I'm sitting in the terrace, just like, what am I going to do? Oh my gosh. Oh, my life is ruined. Because I had wanted to stay in Rome. I really thought my life was going to be in Rome. And then I sat there on my terrace and I said, how much money as a woman can I make in Italy versus how much money can I make in the United States? And the United States went out for women. I mean, even though I loved living in Italy, the glass ceiling for women was even a lot lower. I mean, it was higher. You couldn't
Oh, that
even
was
get
America.
anywhere.
Yeah.
There were women the bosses. So I remember telling my Italian husband at the time, sell the condos, sell the cars. I'll go home to mom's house, which ended up being in Orlando, Florida. I'll go get a job since I have my degree now. And I remember going back to my mom's house feeling like a loser in a way. I'm back in my mother's room and my house, and I'm trying to get my resume all together for it. And my mother comes up to me and she goes, guess what, Chevonne? And I'm like, what, Mom? She goes, Universal Studios is opening up in Orlando, Florida. And I'm looking at my mom going, who cares? Who cares, Mom? Disney World, SeaWorld, Circus World, Busch Gardens, you name a park, we have it here. And I was a tour guide at 16 at Disney. I said, I'm not doing parks, Mom. Parks are not me. Don't do it. Your daughter has a degree from the International American University in Rome. I'm going to do import export. That's your daughter's direction. I was going to the Chamber of Commerce 3 months, trying to set up meetings, trying to do. I had nothing. Even my emotions were getting feeling like I'm not worth anything for a job. And then the Orlando Convention Center invited me to come in for a job. And I grew up in Orlando. As I'm driving to the job, I get off on the wrong exit. And the freeways are high. So as I'm coming off the freeway, I'm now seeing Universal Studios. I had not seen it yet, and it was huge. And something, or God was talking to me, said, go in, go in. And there was this poor black man sitting with a suit on in the middle of the heat of Florida. I don't know how he was doing it, stopping traffic. And I go up to him and I said, can you tell me where the employment agency is? And he tells me 7 miles out of my way. Now, I don't know if you know Orlando. At
I
this
do.
time, there was no MapQuest, no cell phones, there was nothing. And I'm driving in the swamplands in the back there, and I'm going, where in the world am I at? What am I doing in this road? Am I on the right road? And then all of a sudden I see this clearing, and I park my car, and God is really forceful with me. And I keep on sitting in the parking lot, go, what am I doing here? What am I doing? And he's kind of like pushing me to go in. And I go into the office, and the guy goes, I said, I would like to apply for a job. And he goes, what job would you like to apply for? And this is me. I don't know. I don't even know why I'm here.
No.
And the guy goes, well, tell me about yourself. And then I become a peacock. Well, my name is Chevonne O'Shaughnessy. I just came back from Rome. I have an international business degree. I speak Spanish, I speak Italian, and I speak English. And he looks at me and goes, "You speak Italian?" I said, "Yes." He goes, "Well, we have an independent that's making the movies on the back lot," because Universal was not in Florida at that time. And they just came back from selling in Italy, and the Italians totally took them. Maybe you should apply there in its international sales. So I applied. 2 weeks later, I was sent to the Cannes Film Festival to sell films worldwide. And this last week, when I was in Cannes, was 36 years ago when I started. And that's all I've done.
But the fact that you had to go 7 miles out of your way, that
Yes,
to me, this sounds like an appointment. This doesn't sound like you got lost. This sounds like you were exactly supposed to be there.
I was exactly where I was supposed to be. Because even I remember, I never went to the other job. I knew when I got out of there that this was going to be my job. Even though 500 people applied, I just had a feeling this was it. And when I went to Cannes, I went 2 feet. I mean, I knew this is where I wanted to be. I didn't know that my widget was going to be selling films because I didn't study film, but
Right?
it's still distribution, import, export, and so forth. But I would sit in my room at that time back in the 89. They used to have the pictures of all the buyers.
Mm-hmm.
Paul, I would memorize the people's faces. So if all of a sudden you walked in my booth, I'd be going, "Paul, it's so great to see you." And you'd be going, "Who is this girl? I never met her before."
That's just smart business. That's just the way to do it. But isn't it funny
Yeah,
that you said import export? And really, isn't that what movies kind of do
yes,
now
yes,
across? I mean, when I think import export too, I think of great movies like the great spaghetti westerns, right, with
yes.
Sergio Leone and
Doing.
filming in Italy, and how even Tarantino's film where it shows his character going over to Italy to doing spaghetti westerns, and the
Yes.
business of international film.
And it was so much exciting. I mean, I literally, the PM Entertainment, where I went second, we would go to the markets and sell out. I mean, I could put on the door, "Sold out." There was not a territory that we had left to open to sell.
Wow, that
That's
is.
not today. That is not today, but at that
I
time it
imagine
was.
that's not today. No, I not think so. Um, but let me and let's. I want to start moving into some of the. This may be the hardest question you have. It may not be the hardest question you
Tell
have
me.
of this interview. But as a youth pastor, I am often asked, not
Yes.
me, but in the group,
Hmm.
but I see questions. What movies do you recommend? Other youth pastors looking for movies, because youth pastors are looking for movies to either take their kids to during summer. They're looking for movies to show at lock-ins. They're looking for movies to show at some family night, something like that. And of course, then there's a long list of those. And I never have a faith-based movie that comes to mind because, to be honest with you, most of them that I have encountered are not very good. They're not well written. They're not. Some of them are not well acted.
Sure.
So the question is then, why are mass marketed faith based movies traditionally so poorly written and made? And what can we do about this?
Well, it was a two-tier question because that's kind of how I started with Cindy. Cindy and I started mission together, and I met her in a Bible study class. And as I said, I was raised Catholic, and so we had made our action movies, and all of a sudden the market died, and there was no part. And people sometimes go to drink. I went to a Bible study class, and Cindy, well, they would ask me, "Go to John 23, 21," and I'm going, "Okay, do I go right on the Bible or do I left? Can you help me out here? Because I don't
Yes,
know where it's
yes.
at." And I met some wonderful women, and Cindy had just completed, I don't know if you're Cindy Bond, she did I Can Only Imagine and so forth, and
Oh yeah, yeah.
Leave Me Alone. We became partners, but she had at that time, which I was not in the faith-based, had done an animation called The Ten Commandments. The
Hmm.
Ten Commandments, and it starred voices, Alfred Molino, Krishna Slater, Ben Kingsley, and so forth. And she kept coming to me because she knew I did distribution and said, "Chevonne, would you please take my movie?" And I'm looking at Cindy going, "Cindy, I do Crash Boom Bam. I don't do animation for starters. And second of all, this is a Bible movie. I don't do that." And she goes, "Please, please, I trust only you." I'm like, okay, let me go talk to my partner, George, and see what he says. And I went to George and I said, we're at the markets already. We have a big booth. And I said, we'll put one poster up. We'll see how it goes. But it's not going to hurt us. We'll get to put the faces of Christian Slater, Alpha Molino, Ben Kingsley. It can't do us any harm. Let's see how we can do. And I can help this girl who's in my Bible study with this movie. Now, Cindy had domestic. So I didn't have domestic. I had all foreign. So we go to the market. Guess what?
What?
I sold the world. Every single country in the world except one territory. And the
Okay.
funny part
Pretty good.
was this one territory, I thought was going to be my first territory.
Huh.
What do you think it was?
Was it in the Middle East somewhere?
Israel.
I was gonna say that. Interesting.
Yes. And you know what they said to me?
What?
We already know the story.
Huh.
Which is, in a way, they didn't want a Christian person telling their story, which is what it was, more than anything else.
Sure.
But again, I'm learning at that time, not that the Ten Commandments is a great movie, because if you look at it, the animation was kind of floating on the air and so forth. But the units that these people were buying because they didn't have enough product that entertained them enough. So I went back to Cindy and I said, Cindy, this is, we got to do something, and we got to have at least enough product, because as you go to a market, buyers want to be consistent. And that's what I had done with the 150. We have to have product to make sure we make this thing come about, not one. So we set up Mission Pictures together. Cindy and I founded Mission Pictures, and we had 75. Most of the titles were from PureFlix before they were their own distribution. And we got other people's films, and we took them for international. And literally, we created a mission night in South Africa. They bought once a week. They would have a faith-based movie for on Sunday night. And we did the same thing with Televisa in Mexico. I mean, at that time, Mexico was all horror and people's bodies being cut up. I mean, it was horrible. And these two girls in Mexico were courageous enough to take the 52. We did in Central America, some of the countries. So we built something that really wasn't there. I mean, most people were looking at us when we first started saying we were crazy. Even my partner is going, Chevonne, what are we doing? What are we doing? But it built. But what we learned through it all between Cindy and I is that even with the PureFlix titles, we went back to David in that time and we said, look, let's create not a bad version, but kind of two versions, if you want to call it. We'll call it the mainstream version and then the faith-based version. Okay. So if you have a script and you have a scene where he goes to see the pastor, do that same scene with a friend or a parent or whatever, and you can flop it out. You can put the priest in it, and then the music tracks and the dialogue would stay. I mean, they say the same, so you don't have to do music and effects again, but flap it up, because if you push one religion over another, then you can't sell the mainstream televisions. And that was what was buying the most at that time. So France would take it, Germany, and we wanted to become more of a seed planter with the faith base, but make sure we can get the most monies, because all it comes down to, Paul, is money. Are you making the monies to make better product?
Yeah, you got to be able to sell the movie so that you can fund more projects.
Yes.
Right. Animation, I find, like example, you look at Prince of Egypt, let's say, right? Movies like that, animation, faith-based animation, I found at least, does it fairly well. They can do, there's something about animation and faith-based animation that comes across very well. I mean, my kids watch VeggieTales, for decades, right? But when it comes down to in real life people movies, right? And I'm going to call names out because I grew up with them, and I had the pressure on me as a youth pastor to say, well, Paul, are you going to take the kids to go see God's Not Dead? Or are you going to go take the kids to see, what was it, Facing the Giants? Facing the Giants, I'll tell you what, was the first Christian movie I think I saw early on, and I saw a preview of it. And I'll be honest with you, I couldn't stand it. I just couldn't
Really?
stand it. I watched it and I went, this is not real. There's something about this. It felt like pandering, and it felt like, what, I understand, I get it. There's lots of funny moments, and I'm not knocking directors. I'm not doing all that. I'm saying, look, these movies should come
Yeah.
out. But listen, the guy at the end who stands up in the wheelchair, okay, that's fine. But I like my movies a little grittier. I like my
Mhm.
movies where things maybe don't quite work out the way you think they're going to work out. Why do we have this model, Chevonne, of these movies that come out that seem to, that I know they want to reach the audience. I know they want to do that, but why is it so often heavy-handed? Why aren't we making, look, example, Hacksaw Ridge, great movie, has faith
Mhm.
in it,
Yes,
right?
it does.
Great movie. But it seems like if it's a direct Christian movie made by an entirely, Christian production company or something like that, it's very different. And how, why is that?
Well, even with Cindy, it seems like the Christian group wants a certain model of product, even if we go outside the model. Because I mean, Cindy and I were partners, and she had redeeming love then. And I kept saying to Cindy, I said, even though she made the movie and it turned out really well and it's shot beautifully, the community didn't support her, and it's because she went off that grid, even though it has Frances Francine Rivers is one of the number one writers.
Yep.
If you risk it, you're risking that community,
Yes.
and they don't
Yes.
want you. They want the box. They want the
Um,
box.
well, Siobhan, I don't want the box. I grew
I
up in
don't
the
blame
80s.
you.
I don't want the
I don't blame
box.
you.
I
But
want I
it,
want movies like Martin Scorsese's The Silence. I want
okay.
movies that are done well, that are not gratuitous. There's no there's no all this in it. It's a well-made movie. I'm sitting there going, wow, I could show clips of this to my students and say, this is what, from a historical perspective, from a faith-based perspective, I can share that with them. Is there any way, or do you see, can I ask you this? Do you see an upswing in better quality Christian movies being made going forward? Now, Jesus Revolution, good
I
movie.
loved it. I liked it. I liked it very much. And
Kelsey
it
Grammer
was not,
sells it.
yeah, it was not so much in the box. I think it opened up. And that's where which is the same problem Cindy and I used to have, is that I don't want to convert people. I just want to make them have its choice. You make the choice of what you want to do. But I don't want to be putting one religion above the other. I want to put seed planters and let you think it through.
Right. You don't want to be preachy, right?
I don't want to
Right.
be preaching. No, no,
Right.
no, I don't want to be
Movies
preaching.
that tend to preach hard, like A God's Not Dead,
Yeah, or
or
God's not dead, yes, and
yeah,
that's pure flicks, and that's their mission, and that's fine. That's
that's fine. Everybody's
fine,
got
and
their
yeah,
lane.
yeah, my lane is just inspirational. My lane's inspirational, good content. If you want the book is religious. Our movie for everybody is more mainstream.
Right. Right. And I think that brings us to another great question. How would you describe your? I'm hopeful that to put a cap on the other question. Are you hopeful that movies will start to move more to like the Jesus Revolution movies? Are you hopeful? Are you seeing something on the horizon of that
Yes,
level of
I do.
quality filmmaking?
I think it's everything is a pendulum. And I think, and then even when I started with the mission and why I wanted to go in this direction with Cindy, yes, I like the content, but it was also on a personal level to me. I my daughter's 36, but when she was 9 years old and I'm working and trying to create a life for both of us, I let her sit in the television thinking Disney was Disney. They had the animation, they had the good product, and not really paying attention to the product that she was watching until I sat down with her and said, "Oh my gosh, what are they showing her?" And I think there was a part of in our relationship that it broke because she was influenced so much by the morals that these TV series, I mean, now she's back, thank God, but, and that's where I said, if I have a voice, I want to make things that the family, they can choose. I'm not trying to say that you have to take my channel, but that you have good morals that you can all sit down and be with the family together and watch. And that was because of what I saw that happened to my daughter.
Sure, sure. And plenty of people who are listening who have family, I mean, who are youth pastors who want to watch stuff with their families, and they want to be able to show movies that are faith-based, that are good quality films that you're going to see to their churches, right? They
Yeah.
have audiences that want to see those things, and they want to have those things. And so I think you're absolutely right. There's a market for it if we can get out of the
And I think
box
there's
just
more.
a little.
I think it's getting more. I think it's getting more, like you're saying, but it has to be not too preachy. It has to be less preachy to get to the masses so they can think it themselves what they want.
Right, right. And for a whole nother podcast, I would like more man, some men movie, some testosterone movies. I would like that element. I think we're losing our young men sometimes because we give them
It's
very tepid faith-based
mhm,
movies, right?
true.
The Sound of Freedom is good, right? With
I agree with you.
Jim Caviezel.
Jim
It's
Caviezel.
a start, right? It's a start. It never goes far enough for me though, right? I mean, as far as how bad guys get their endings, it never goes far enough for me. But
Because there's no outlets. There's no outlet for the guys. I mean, there's no real outlet, even if you go to make an action movie now. I mean, I used to do 150, and there was an outlet for it for men. I mean, the only outlet in, most of the TV programming is made by females because at the end of the day, they found out we control the remote control
that's
in the
insightful.
house. I mean, it comes down just to that. And women want to see themselves with the guns and they want to see themselves the one. So, I mean,
I'm
I
okay
know.
with that. I grew up with Ripley and Alien. I grew up with strong heroines who kicked butt and took names. I'm
Exactly.
I am fine with that entirely. I feel like they just come up short sometimes in that area. You have, bands now that are making movies like For King and Country and things like that, where
Yep.
they did a trafficking movie. And to me, all those people that were involved in that, it just came up shy. It's like, listen, all these guys need to get their just desserts here. And I don't feel like they got their just desserts. I'm like, we just came up short, guys. If we just go one level higher, we're going, yes, that's what's happening.
Okay. I have an idea. I'm going to write a script and I'm going to send it to you and see what you think before I do it.
Okay. I am
Okay.
in.
And you're going to give me your notes.
I have notes. I take
Okay,
notes.
good. I love that. And send me your notes because I agree with you. I think we're also kind of scared ourselves knowing, and we just need to be pushed a little bit.
But
We
we're
need to be
already
pushed a
watching,
little bit more.
right? We're already watching Hacksaw Ridge. We're already watching
Right.
these elements of movies, of war, of other things that have faith included in them somehow, but have that action oriented. It's already there. They've shown us the model, and
Right.
they're successful. So then that brings me to this. Then, how would you describe your movies, your films, which I'm going to get into here in just a second? But tell
My
me how
my
you
movies are
describe it.
made for 35 to 55-year-old women. I would say the majority are made for, I'll be, my target market is, even I go through it, is for women
Right?
that are looking for clean content for their family. I mean, I'm not trying to push, the books push the religion, but the movies are just, and during COVID, it was great.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people needed product that they could sit down and watch instead of covering the kids' eyes. Don't look at this, or grandma's in the room. So that's the direction of ours. Then we went to diversity. So we have like black, same genre. So we stay in our niche. And
Sure.
now we've also gone to Latin cast in English, but the same kind of story,
Yeah,
where they're not made.
I was gonna watch Unconditional.
Unconditional?
I was gonna
Yeah.
watch that, but
That was years ago, yeah.
it was only on my Spanish speaking streaming. I couldn't find it on another streaming service.
Well, because I don't have domestic rights on that one. I only have the Spanish on it. And
Gotcha.
the guy, and at that time it was hard to sell because it had a black cast at that time, the second black cast. And for the longest times when I would go to the market with anything that had anybody black in it or was one of main leads, even though he's gorgeous, I love the actor in it, the distributors go, no, no, Chevonne, no.
Oh, that's not
And
good.
Oh, it was horrible. It was so blatant in our face. They would not take anything. But then
Wow.
I knew that with the power of Empire and Grey's Anatomy, I said, it's not me that's smart here. I'm going to ride the coattails of the studios because they're going to start buying the foreign buyers, black cast product because they're being forced by the studios, not because of me. And now they are. They get taking more diverse. They'll take black and white, which is a great thing now with
Yes.
even different religions. We need it because half the country is not white anymore. We're mixed race. We're everything.
Sure. Absolutely. And you know, everybody watches movies. I mean, it's
Yes,
everybody watches TV. I mean, it's
everybody.
not,
Not just white people.
yeah, not just
Yes.
white people. My goodness.
Yes.
That is crazy to hear that. That is insane. And I'm glad to hear things are on the upward there. So when you're looking then, and I'm gonna just gonna name a few of these because like I said, I watched all the trailers. All right, love finds you in charm. Okay.
Yes.
You seem to love the Amish, by the way. I want to point that out that the Amish are like the
I've done
long lost,
I've done 8.
the
I did 8.
Amish
I
are
am
the
the
long
Amish.
lost
I am the
people.
Amish queen. I am. Nobody's done as many Amish movies as I have. And it's really funny because when I did the first ones with Michael Landon had the Shunning and the Confession, and we did the
Yeah.
international sales on it. My partner was going, "What are you doing with these Amish? Who's going to buy these Amish?" And we ended up again another one that ended up selling because it's kind of like it's today, but it feels like Little House on the Prairie. That people were even going and making trips because they kind of think they're a fake thinker, but they think they're simpler and they're maybe a little more religious, it's calmer, but
Yeah.
it's bringing them back.
I thought it was. I thought I said, is the Amish the last bastion of simple faith?
Yes,
is
I
that
think
why
that's
that speaks?
yes.
Right? Is that why we're there?
It's just you know that it's going to be calm. I got mysteries now because that's my latest ones. I have the guideposts Sugar Creek Amish Mysteries, and there's
Oh,
30
wow.
books, and we're going to be doing the first 4.
Is it going to be like Miss Marble? Is this going to be a central character, Amish character, like they have in BritBox right now, where they have these nuns and priests and other people that are solving mysteries,
It's an Englisher, so anybody who's not English
right?
gets to be there with an Amish lady. They solve the
Oh,
mysteries
so it's an
together.
Englisher and an Amish lady?
And an Amish, yes.
Love it. Perfect. That's
And
we have.
and a good looking son that she falls in love with. Yes.
There we go.
What can you do?
Yes. Yes, please. Let's let's turn that into Lethal Weapon right now for the Amish. Um,
Exactly.
exactly. All right. Love finds you in Sugar Creek. Good trailer.
Yep.
Think it gives away too much. Kelly McGillis is in that. Top Gun fame.
Yes,
Love
it
her.
was her first movie that she did Amish outside of The Witness.
Well, I was gonna say that. I said the minute I started watching this, I was thinking the Amish is such an interesting topic, and not since Harrison Ford played in Witness have I seen
Witness.
this much Amish. Love finds you in Valentine. Who doesn't love Lindsay Wagner, the Bionic Woman? I know, by the way, those that are watching and those who are listening, you're thinking, Paul, you're so old. I don't know who you're talking about. That's what Google's for. Okay. Lindsay Wagner, Bionic Woman. Ed
Yes.
Asner, legend. Uh,
Legend.
Love and Big Sky, great, good trailer. Uncommon Grace, good trailer. That young man, by the way, looked like a very young Christopher Reeve in that
Yes, he
movie,
does.
by the way. Finding Love in Mountain View, also a good trailer. October Baby, which I think I had a part in promoting. I used to belong to a writing group who did movies, who
Hmm.
sent out boxes of back in the day when you had CDs, right?
Yes.
And you would sign up for these CD boxes. And then you would also get Bible studies. And I think October
Hmm.
Baby was a part of that. And I think
Yes.
I maybe
It
wrote
was the
something
Kinder.
for
Yes.
that.
Yeah, it was the Irwin Brothers. It was one of the Irwin Brothers' first movie, and Cindy and I got it.
Now, this series, I had no idea it existed. And I want to say that I did not think I would like it. But The Ultimate Gift, The Ultimate Legacy, The Ultimate Life, I'm
James
sold.
Stoll.
Listen, when you have Rockford from Rockford Files in there, James
Thank you.
Garner, I'm in.
It
I'm in. Bill
is.
Cobbs, legend.
Yeah.
Brian Dennehy,
Right,
legend
Jenny.
in the
Yes.
business, right? Peter Fonda shows up. Okay. And then you had Unconditional. Bruce McGill, legend. been in
Yes.
everything. Got Michael Ealy, love him. So
But that's
all
what I'm
these,
saying. Even with big names like Michael Healy, I couldn't sell him back then.
well,
And he's
I
gorgeous.
he
And he's
is
gorgeous.
great actor. All these
Great
folks are great
actor.
actors.
Great
They're not just
actor.
eye candy. They're just really
No.
good. Show up, do my job, and I act.
Hmm.
These guys are working actors. These
Exactly.
guys are not has-beens. These guys are people who've done it to the nth degree their whole life. So when you describe your films to people, right? You say when you sell, if you're selling me on a
Yes.
movie, sell me on a movie,
Yes.
sell me on any one of these movies, and describe that film to me as if you say I'm a buyer for
Okay.
my
Well, let's say
my
I'll
world
do the
here.
Love Find You series. The Love Find You series is a series of books, and our movies are taking a woman's tragedy or change in her life, and we're building her back. We're building her back in the movie to be part of a community, to be part of her family, and to finding love again.
All right, I'll take 50. Whatever you have, I'll take. Good sales job. Take them all. Um,
Thank-
so how do you do, by the way, too? And I know there are some, right? How does casting play a role in this? Because there are some, and I think if you cast Johnny Depp in a faith-based movie today, that might be a struggle. But I
Nobody would
noticed,
come. Nobody would come. Just like
right,
Charlie Sheen.
just like Charlie Sheen. But how does casting play a part in selling that movie? Because you have Ed Asner's been in a bunch of kind of faith-based movies, right? So a lot of folks have done that. What are you looking for when you're casting? What kind of what goes into that? Because I know there's some people look at a movie and go, because I remember the debacle years ago of like TBN, and they were doing the whole like end of time series, but he was under a tirade because people were wanting to know about his faith. They were like digging. They're like finding how Christian are you, basically. They're trying to dig into his. I think he was just overwhelmed by that.
I can tell you when we put Kelly McGillis in Love Finds You in Sugar Creek, some of the major video players wouldn't take the movie from Fox.
Why is that?
Even though it was not in my movie, her personally is an LGBTQ. She's lesbian.
Wow,
And they wouldn't support the movie at all because of that. And I'm like,
interesting.
yeah, I was like, well, it's not in the movie. That's her own personal, but they wouldn't do it. Then we also took a movie with the WWE in Blumhouse. They had made their first Christian movie. I don't know if you ever saw it, called The Resurrection of Gavin Stone.
I did not.
It was the Blumhouse who does all the horror. But once the Christian group saw it was from the producers of the Blumhouse, they had a bad, bad, well, they would not support it at all. It's called The Resurrection of Gavin Stone.
Wow, I'll have to look. I'll have to look that up just because.
I think if Blumhouse had stayed in that genre of horror with maybe faith in it, it might have been supported more, but they tried to
Yeah.
get into the romantic part, and those people did not want to support that at all. So I mean, it
Wow.
depends a lot. We do, and I'll tell you what we do. We try to take, because again, I'm an independent. I wish I was a studio, but I'm making it under my budget. I'm paying for it. So we try to take people that are just coming off series,
Hmm.
that are just they got the notoriety with the series for the foreign buyers. So CW was Trevor Donovan, and we got him right after he finished 90210. We took Makilla from Finding Love and Valentine. She had just come off the other show. So trying to get those girls that are coming off. I remember when we went to go do Love Finds You and Charm that you were mentioning. I went to all the studios or all the agencies to get a girl to play Amish. And I can tell you, no, nobody would find me a girl. They would give me girls that would say foul language. They would have me girls doing nudity. But if you put a bonnet on somebody's girl, nobody. So finally I found Danielle Churchrun, and she was with the Mormon Church, and she came in and did it, and she was unbelievable, and she's great. But none of the agents would get me a girl to play a bonnet. It's very hard
There's a lot,
sometimes.
and this is so fascinating, Chevonne. This is like the inside scoop, the inside baseball that you're giving me here. I'm like going, wow, lots of choices being made. beyond in boardrooms and back rooms and those things about how these things are done. It is super interesting. Yeah. So when you're looking at then, so far as casting goes, think that's some great insight there. So let's move into the right now as we kind of land the plane
Okay.
here a little bit.
Yes, Lantern.
What kind of movies are being made and marketed towards Gen Z and Gen Alpha? What seems to be the mindset in this marketing of movies or even the making of movies that you think is trending that are being made for this next generation?
Well, again, I think, like I told you, why I went into the mission pictures thing. I think a lot more parents are really aware of what's out there, and I think they're trying to let the children find something that's fun, that's getting them. They're getting on YouTube. And I mean, I even have a grandson, and to take that computer away from him is so hard, so hard, so hard because they have the stimulus and everything else on it that they're trying. And I think that's one of the reasons why some of these new studios are really trying to create some big projects with some big names. They're bringing some big names because unless they get the big names, just like what Marvel did, I mean, I don't like Marvel. I think
Right.
they dumbed out our kids. I think our kids are dumb now. They don't know history. They don't know what's going on, but they do know what Iron Man is and Aquaman are. But
Yes, they do. They do. But so then that brings that up then. What do you think the genre is then? So if it's not superheroes, if you don't think the movie industry is gonna, if they're, we know that the Marvel movies, the fourth phase here and the fifth phase are just tanking. They're not doing very
yes,
well. So we can watch the change happening, right? We're watching that go. So then what is then? Do you see any, if you could name genres or trends that you think they're shooting for? What are they shooting for? What's the genre? Is it science fiction? Is it fantasy?
I think
Is it,
I think
what do you think it
sci-fi
is?
and I think westerns. I think westerns are going to come back. I
Really?
think westerns are a good way to have a male to the younger boys because you got to get to the boys. So
Absolutely. Yeah. And
I think the westerns are going to really come back. They haven't been out for a long time, but I think if you do, and I think they're going to start directing in that direction.
well, Kevin Costner has a new movie coming out.
Mhm.
It's a Western, which he does great Westerns anyway.
Oh, he
Uh,
does a great one.
but I noticed that he's coming out with that. Also, the Fallout series that's on Amazon Prime. There's some
Mhm.
Western to that as well. So
Yes.
they've
I
so
think
so I do see what you're saying is that some of that Western uh genre is coming back in some way to
it
do
can be
that.
the
So I'm
hero. They can be the heroes. Men want to be heroes and they want to know how to provide and they want to be the heroes and they want to be the guns and they want to be protective. That's what all the men are looking for. I don't care if they're little boys, big boys. You want to get to the heart of what they want.
so if I ask so as a youth pastor, if a youth pastor came up and asked you and I asked you, I said, look,
Mhm.
and I asked the question I'm seeing in Facebook and other places, what movies do you recommend? If you could give me three movies right now that you say, look, if you're a youth pastor and you want to show your teenagers, and it could be anything, it could be for pure entertainment, it could be for discussion, it could be for a Sunday school, who knows? I mean, but if you're saying, look, or something to watch with your family, or something you could show at a lock-in to a bunch of kids, what three movies, if you could come up with three, did you say I'd recommend those for a
I would
teenager?
say two, because the only thing I
All right.
could think of, as a kid that I loved Jesus Christ Superstar. I love the musicals, and had the singing and the dancing. And I mean, to this day, I can probably sing you all the songs from Jesus Christ Superstar. I just loved it. I thought they were catchy. They were this, and I thought there's a lot of message in it. It didn't have to be too much on it, but
Mm-hmm.
the songs were great. I love Cindy's movie. I Can Only Imagine. I thought that had a lot of meaning, but it wasn't too preachy on it. I thought it was, and just so you know, she's making a second one. She's doing I Can Only
Okay.
Imagine too.
Really?
But I think it
Uh,
had the family in there. It had some of the young kids are dealing with trauma. I mean, a family that might not be so, has their dynamics, family dynamics that you can't deal with, and how you get around it.
yeah.
I mean, as I said, I didn't have bad parents, but I got abused because I came back from Colombia without knowing my English right as well. So everybody's dealing with something. So I would say those are
Yeah.
my two. two
Two of those.
favorite
And those are,
movies.
hey, yeah, those are good ones. Those are good ones. These are good movies, and I'll have a list too. I'll put maybe some recommendations for those that are watching, those that are listening. I'll have
Yep.
something for you can look at as well. So I would wrap it up with this then. Where can youth pastors find your movies on streaming services? And where can they keep up with you about the projects you're working on?
I have a YouTube channel. It's called ACI on the Go. We have 655,000 subscribers, and all my titles are on there. And at the same time, they're also in Spanish. So I have English, and then I have ACI Siempre Contigo. So you can see on my website, we have all my titles, which is a americancinema.com, americancinemainspires.com. And I'm also looking for anybody that wants to intern. If anybody has something, I'm going to be starting also to make the 4 Amish ones in Ohio. And if anybody wants to come and be extras in there, we're going to be in Sugar Creek, Ohio, coming up by the end of the year. So we're going to have 4 of those as well. And we'll be in Sugar Creek, Ohio. And we have a lot more. We have another one we're submitting to BET. And we got the continuation of 3 movies that we did for BET already. So we'll be making some Black movies as well as white, and we're going to make another one with a Latin cast called Finding Love in Miami. So
Okay. Well, look, that's right. Let's make movies for everybody. How about
yes,
that? Let's make
yes,
movies for everybody. Everybody loves movies. Everybody should go to the movies. Let's
go to
go to
movies.
let's go to movie theaters. Let's get in
Mhm.
there and enjoy things as a family. And Chevonne, thank you so much. I mean, what you shared today, I think is just fantastic. I think it's important. I think it's informative, especially to youth pastors who are, they're no longer, they used to be somewhat of the gatekeepers of the youth
Yeah.
in the church. That's not true
Mhm.
anymore. So the more that you folks like you can educate us as to what's happening in an industry that is uh, perpetually trying to figure out what is the lowest bar they can, have. So the information you bring today is, I think, is going to help a lot of folks and bring a lot of insight to them. So thank you so much for coming today.
Thanks, Paul. Thank you for taking me. I loved it. I had so much fun.